Saranam Gacchami Dhammam Saranam Gacchami Sangham Saranam Gacchami.
Good morning, all of you. Today we have Deborah joining us. You must be knowing that this Deborah who came all the way for the retreat, but because of his illness, she could not join. So she's now joining us online from the room somewhere here. Okay, let us pray for a quick recovery. Yeah. And with this in mind, let us setting proper motivation, which has three parts. One is refuge field, Bodhicitta field, and its purpose is practice. For the refuge field, visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and all the Buddhist Bodhisattvas in the space in front of us, as so loving, caring, embracing. And for the Bodhicitta field, let us visualize your two kind parents and all their mother sentient beings with you, leaving them aside. And the purpose of this practice is to awaken the seed of perfection within us, to experience total fearlessness and infinite happiness. And while we have the potential to experience the two, it is the mental obscurations that block us from experiencing these or manifesting these two potentials within us. So our job is to remove the mental defilements by resorting to very powerful remedies. And the remedies ultimately lies in the wisdom of emptiness, for the reason that all the defilements, mental defilements, often somehow they are related to the self-grasping ignorance, either in the form of offshoots of this ignorance or the subtle stains of this. And this wisdom of emptiness, to what extent this can eradicate what extent of mental defilements is determined by the motivation. In the motivation bodhicitta, this can eradicate all the mental defilements. If it is just a renunciation, it can eradicate only the afflictive obscurations, thereby making you experience fearlessness but not the infinite happiness. So with a very strong desire to benefit all the demon sentient beings, let us turn to page 4. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. By my accumulations or practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. By my accumulations or practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. By my accumulations or practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Sanje Joda Zoge Jonam No Janjo Bado Dane Jazu Je Dage Jenzo Yeba Sonamge Tola Benjira Sanje Dubara Jo Sanje Joda Zoge Chonam No Janjo Bado Dane Jazu Je Dage Jenzo Yeba Sonamge Tola Benjira Sanje Dubara Jo Sanje Joda Zoge Jonam No Janjo Bado Dane Jazu Je Dage Jenzo Yeba Sonamge Tola Benjira Sanje Dubara Jo Om ye dharma hetu prabhavam hetum tesham dathagato hyavatat Desham chayo nirodha evam bhati mahashramanaye swaha Om ye dharma hetu prabhavam hetum tesham dathagato hyavatat Desham chayo nirodha evam bhati mahashramanaye swaha Om ye dharma hetu prabhavam hetum tesham dat yavatat Desham jayo nirodha evam bhati mahashramanaye swaha. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by as well as taught by the great seer. Deyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhiswatyata Om Gate Gate Paragade Parasam Gade 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 Bodhiswa. Okay, today we'll read In Praise of Dependent Origination. Is there anyone who can help us to identify where it is? Which page? 104. Page 104. Okay. Just for information, this text, a very short meaning. Is just verse 58. 58 verses are there, composed by Lama Tsongkhapa, and this is the one that His Holiness the Dalai Lama gave teaching on in when is that? June 2nd of June, for the Nalanda studies to all the participants. And this composition, how it came in existence, was that that Lama Tsongkhapa, he was going through all these studies, extensive studies, and then really contemplating, meditating, and in his mind, of course, this is the difference. There, he didn't say that he was already being a highly respected teacher. These people from all over Tibet, I wouldn't say world, in those days, 14th century AD. From all over Tibet, they come to receive teaching from him. And then he was deeply contemplating, and then he did not just say that, okay, I know now Aranagarjuna now. I don't know what Acharya Chandrakirti said. No. Look, this is the difference. So he was wondering if what he has grasped or what he understood of the philosophy, what he understood of the philosophy, if that really resonates with Aranagarjuna's philosophy. So what he did was that the Manjushri, so okay. Arya Manjushri in Sutra system, taken as the Bodhisattva wisdom, and in Tantra system, he's taken as the Buddha of the wisdom. And when a yogi meaning somebody who's really realized, when they remove the mental defilements to a great extent, then they would have the vision of these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So Lama Tsongkhapa at that point, he did not have the vision of Arya Manjushri. Instead, there was another teacher by the name Lama Umapa, who used to have the vision of Arya Manjushri. And Lama Umapa and Lama Tsongkhapa, two of them were like more mutual teachers, mutual students, and they learn from each other. Both of them are very acclaimed, and of course, at that point, Lama Umapa must be older in terms of age. Then Lama Umapa, he was having the vision of Arya Manjushri, whereas Lama Tsongkhapa, he was not having a vision. So since that, Lama Tsongkhapa wanted to evaluate whether or not his understanding of emptiness resonates with that, reflects with that of Aranagarjuna's the thought. Then the Arya Manjushri, the Lama Tsongkhapa, they requested Lama Umapa to convey the message to Arya Manjushri so that he can help evaluate if the Lama Tsongkhapa's understanding of emptiness is the authentic experience, the full-fledged experience of emptiness. And then Lama Umapa, he reported the matter to Arya Manjushri. Then Arya Manjushri exhorted that Lama Tsongkhapa's understanding of emptiness at the moment is not the perfect, but if he engages in three factors, then he would soon unravel the perfect understanding of emptiness as taught by the Buddha Shakyamuni, further commented upon by Aranagarjuna. So the three factors. What are the three factors Arya Manjushri identified as a guidance to Lama Tsongkhapa to follow? One was to seek the blessings of one's guru, inseparable one with one's the spiritual deity. One. Number two, to go through extensive studies of the commentaries written by the authoritative Indian masters, like, for example, like Aranagarjuna's the 6 treatises, then Bodhisattva Arya Devas, the texts like 400 verses and so forth, then Acharya Chandrakirti's texts, and then Bodhisattva Shantideva's texts. So he's advised to study all these things. Number 2. Number 3, engage in accumulating enormous amount of merit accumulation. And in total, and Arya Manjushri then advised Lama Tsongkhapa to go for a solitary retreat rather than spending so much time giving teaching and so forth. Go for solitary retreat and do these three things, and then very soon he will unravel the full import of what emptiness is, emptiness of objective existence, while not negating the functionality to the world. So this is the challenging part, while rejecting objective existence and still being able to adhere to the functionality of the world. In other words, seeing the harmony of the two things, harmony of emptiness with the infallible functionality of the world. This harmony is something very difficult to see, and for that matter, he is advised to go into solitude to do these three things. And then Lama Tsongkhapa went there, and although today, if you see Lama Tsongkhapa how he is depicted with so elaborately with the brocade, the robes and so forth, but in reality it was very different. And he, I think with his 8 students, left for the solitary retreat, and then he was, even the mandala set, where we offer the mandala. How many mandala offering with the set, the 3 stacks? How many that, raise hands? In the mornings we offer the mandala, Sashi, Bhugi, Jashamudar, we sing this. So this mandala offering, so we have all these exotic mandala sets, like made of gold, silver and so forth. But Lama Tsongkhapa, he did not have anything. He offered the mandala on a piece of slab, stone slab, that's it. And yet we today we depict him as a very elegant, but in reality it's very different. He is not visibly elegant, mentally so elegant, experientially elegant. Today is very different. People with the physical elegance is internally hollow. This is the contrast. So Lama Tsongkhapa went there, and then he engaged in accumulation of merit, for example, like offering mandala on a slab, the stone slab, and then because of which, so this, what do you call this part? Hey, Laura, what do you call this part? Jane? Huh? This also side, right? This also side, this also side? Outside, this outside? Both are outside, right? Okay, it doesn't matter, this part. So he started to have sore here because it rubbed against the heart stone, right? A sore, and still he was accumulating merit. And okay, so with all these things intact, and then one night he had a dream. He had a dream of all these Indian masters who were related to the wisdom of emptiness. Aranigarjuna, Bodhisattva Arideva, then the Acharya Bhuttapalita, then Acharya Chandrakirti, Bodhisattva Sharideva, all these great masters had a dream, and from there was one master, they referred to as Acharya Bhuttapalita. He came down with a text, the traditional text like this, the long one, text, and offered this to Lama Tsongkhapa in the dream. And the next morning, a visitor came, maybe one of his students or just anybody. A visitor came with the same book. The book authored by Acharya, the Acharya Bhuttapalita, the one who came in the dream. His text was offered to Lama Tsongkhapa by somebody, just a visitor. And then he just flipped through the text, and then he realized emptiness. So what he wrote here, this is the outcome of that realization. You getting it? So what we are reading here, this background. Okay, let's read this, and just for information, and these are the things which you would otherwise never hear about, and like how in the traditional monasteries, things are done, and you will get a little bit of the idea of what's happening in those places. For example, I completed my the first 6-7 years. So its total usually is like 8-9 years. So I completed that in like 6 years. Don't think that, don't think that he must be very special. No. So I completed that in 6 years. After completing one thing, Abhisamaya Alankara, with all the the programs completed, then I was moved to the Madhyamaka, the philosophy of emptiness. That is a senior class, 3 years. So there's a gap of like 1.5 months, the gap, just a break. And I went to South India to study more. And there was one great teacher who passed away, and who was revered as somebody who already reached the Gade Jorlam path of the path of preparation. So he's respected for having attained that path, Gade, second one, Jorlam, where you have already realized emptiness. That too on the experiential level, very high level. And many people, they all just go there to seek blessings from him, because he became so renowned, and he spent many years, almost like 30 years, in solitude in Bhutan. And then when he was in 80s, then he came down to his main monastery in South India. Then everybody coming to know about his fame, everybody just flocked to get blessings from him. And since early morning, there were like hundreds of people queuing to get his audience. And I was just so naive. I thought that it's auspicious for me to also go there. So I went there, and I had nothing to say. So what it was, and then everybody in line, just make please bless me, whatever. And then he said, "Where are you from?" So I'm from IBD. And then I said that I completed these 7 years course, and now I'm joining the emptiness, wisdom of emptiness, the course for 3 years. So please advise me, if you can, advise me as to what kind of there is what is known as the puja, meaning to do some rituals to ward off any obstacles for you studying emptiness. Then he said, recite this text every day in praise of dependent origination. Recite this text every day. And this young boy, this very young boy, maybe age 20 something, thought, oh, this may be, he must be seeing something, right? Some miracle that he say this, recite this every day, then my obstacles for me to study Madhyama Avatar will be warded off. And then I'm so diligent. I started to read this every day. Then after a while, after completing my 3 years course, Deborah, how are you? Okay, Deborah, everybody here is praying for your quick recovery. And take care. Okay. Okay, so later after completing 3 years of my studies and still every day reciting this, I came to know that there's no miracle. He was smart. He was very smart, because finally what the purpose of the study of the emptiness is to internalize and able to get the information, complete import of the wisdom of emptiness, to be habituated in that every day. So reading this text every day, you are getting a complete of emptiness every day, a dose of complete of emptiness every day. And later on I came to realize that he's very smart. Not that he was, using some clairvoyance. Very smart. It's common sense that if you want to be good in, let's say, if you want to be good in music, practice music every day. if you are good in the wisdom of emptiness, practice wisdom of emptiness every day. So this is what he did. Wow, this is amazing, so smart. So let us also do that. If possible, recite this every day, right? And this is such a succinct work by Lama Tsongkhapa after he realized the emptiness. Okay. So with this in mind, we are reciting in praise of dependent origination. Deborah, do you have this text? Deborah, do you have this text? Deborah, do you have this text?
No, I don't.
You don't have it? Okay, so the RC staff, Mr. Rabiana will bring one for you. Bring one for you right now. Okay, Nicola went there. Nicola went to bring you this book for you. Okay, it is on page 104. Once you get it, just inform me. Then I'll let you know which verse we are reading. Okay, this is extremely succinct work, very comprehensive, and the clarity is there, and all coming from his experience, Lama Tsongkhapa's experience. And if you could remember, in the mornings we for the morning sessions, we're doing the recitation of the praise to Lama Tsongkhapa by equating him with the three perfect qualities of the Buddhas: perfect love, perfect knowledge, and perfect power. And so while the Buddha is getting this text, let me just quickly share with you. Say that I don't know my personality. My personality is very strange. My personality is very strange. Since my childhood. So when I see somebody who I see as little egoistic, I feel disturbed. That was my personality. And what happened was that Lama Tsongkhapa, his text is one particular text, which is the let's say the Lekshe Nyingpo, the essence of the eloquent speech. Lekshe Nyingpo, essence of eloquent speech, composed by Lama Tsongkhapa. Okay, you got it. Good. And yes, wonderful. And His Holiness was giving teaching on this. And in the opening passage, Lama Tsongkhapa wrote that in today's Tibet, where there are many people who, as a Dharma practitioner, they don't study at all how to practice the Dharma, and they say that practice Dharma. We have to practice Dharma. They, spend so much of time in practice Dharma without knowing how to practice. And on the other hand, on the contrast, we say there are many people who know how to practice Dharma, they don't practice. So here, then Lama Tsongkhapa said, here, out of compassion, I'm composing this for people to say, learn how to practice, and actually, they say you can practice on the basis of the manual that I'm creating. So, and that he said, out of compassion. So initially, I was totally not exposed to all these texts, and just reading this, okay, saying that this is your limitation, I'm giving it the full. So this is the kind of the feeling that I got, and I feel a little disturbed. And later on, when I delved into the studies more intensely for about 10 years, and then the struggling with emptiness, so not just outrightly rejecting, Aranya Nagarjuna said this is idealism, it is nihilism. No, something, I'm not getting something. So I cannot correlate the two things. The Aranya Nagarjuna's emptiness and the functionality. I cannot correlate the two. So where am I going wrong? Where am I missing? So I was inquiring into different systems, like how the Vaibhashika is present, Sautrantika is present, Chittamatra, Sabbatathika Madhyamika, Prasangika, and then various sources. And then finally I got stuck there. I got stuck. Stuck meaning that now where should I turn to? I read almost all the standard books, and still I didn't get the answer. So where should I turn to? Then the Lama Tsongkhapa's books, Lama Tsongkhapa's all, I read all, right? I read all. This is the attitude. This is wrong. Lama Tsongkhapa's text, there are so many layers. Nagarjuna's text, there are so many layers. We just read the surface. We got the surface. We could not see what is underneath. And out of desperation, again I went back to Lama Tsongkhapa's text. Then I started to see so many layers there. And then later on, when I read the same passage, when Lama Tsongkhapa said that some people, they practice without knowing how to practice. Some people, they know how to practice, but they don't practice it. So here, out of compassion, when Lama Tsongkhapa literally, when he said it's compassion, then I feel that he literally meant it. It's all out of his compassion that this is what is coming. We are so fortunate to have actually get his legacies, his master works for our benefit. Then literally I started to cry to see the compassion of Lama Tsongkhapa and its brilliance of intelligence and compassion. Compassion alone is not sufficient. Brilliance alone is not sufficient. Combined together is so beautiful. Okay, so this is the text. The Deborah, we are on page 104. Page 1, Deborah, we are on page 104. In praise of dependent origination. Okay. He who speaks on the basis of seeing, this may came a knower and teacher unexcelled. I bow to you, O conqueror, you who saw dependent origination and taught it. Conqueror here means the Buddha, the one who conquers all the mental defilements. Number 2. Whatever degenerations there are in the world, the root of all these is ignorance. You are taught that it is dependent origination, the seeing of which will undo this ignorance. So how can an intelligent person not comprehend that this path of dependent origination is the essential point of your teaching? This being so, who will find, O Savior, a more wondrous way to praise you than to praise you for having taught this origination through dependence? Whatsoever depends on conditions, that is devoid of intrinsic existence. What excellent instructions can there be more amazing than this proclamation? By grasping at it, the child is strengthened bondage to extreme views. For the wise, this very fact is the raw way to cut free from the net of elaborations. Since this teaching is not seen elsewhere, you alone are the teacher. Like calling a fox a lion, for a Tirthika it would be a word of flattery. Wondrous teacher, wondrous refuge, wondrous speaker, wondrous savior. I pay homage to that teacher who taught well dependent origination. To help heal sentient beings, O benefactor, you have taught the perfect reasons to ascertain emptiness, the heart of the teaching. This way of dependent origination, those who perceive it as contradictory or as unestablished, how can they comprehend your system? For you, when one sees emptiness in terms of the meaning of dependent origination, then being devoid of intrinsic existence and possessing valid functions do not contradict. Whereas then, when one sees the opposite, since there can be no function in emptiness, no emptiness in what has function, one falls in the dreadful abyss you mundane. Therefore, in your teaching, seeing dependent origination is hailed, that too not as an utter non-existence, nor as an intrinsic existence. The non-contingent is like a scattered flower. Hence there is nothing that is not dependent. If things exist through their essence, their dependence on causes conditions for the existence is a contradiction. Therefore, since no phenomenon exists other than origination through dependence, no phenomenon exists other than being devoid of intrinsic existence, you taught. Because intrinsic nature cannot be negated, if phenomena did possess some intrinsic nature, nirvana would become impossible, and elaborations could not be ceased, you taught. Therefore, who could challenge you? You who proclaim within lines roar in the assembly of learned ones repeatedly that everything is utterly free from intrinsic nature, that there is no intrinsic existence at all, and that all functions as this arising in dependence on that, what need is there to say that these two converge without conflict? It is through the reason of dependent origination that one does not lean towards the extreme. That you, the Savior, having declared this accidentally, is the source of your unexcelled speech. All of this is devoid of essence, and from this arises that effect. These two certainties complement each other with no contradiction at all. What is more amazing than this, what is more marvelous than this, if one praises you in this manner, is real praise, otherwise not. Being enslaved by ignorance, those who fiercely oppose you, what is so astonishing about they being unable to bear the sound of no intrinsic existence, but having accepted dependent origination, the precious treasure of your speech, these then not tolerating the road of emptiness, this I find amazing indeed. The door that leads to no intrinsic existence, this unexcelled door of dependent origination. Through the name alone, if one grasps an intrinsic existence, now this person who lacks an unraveled entrance, well travelled by the noble ones, by what means should one guide him to the excellent path that pleases you? Intrinsic nature, uncreated and non-contingent. Dependent origination, contingent and created. How can these two converge upon a single basis without contradiction? Therefore, whatever originates dependently, though primordially free of intrinsic existence, appears as if it does possess intrinsic existence. So you taught all these to be illusion-like. Through this very fact, I understand well the statement that in what you have taught, those opponents who challenge you cannot find faults that accord with reason. Why is this so? Because by declaring these chances for edification and denigration towards things seen and unseen are made more remote. Through this very path of dependent origination, the rationale for your speech being peerless, conviction arises in me also, that your other words are valid too. You speak excellently by seeing as it is. For those who train in your footsteps, all degenerations will be remote, for the root of all faults will be undone. But those who turn away from your teaching, though they may struggle with hardship for a long time, faults increase evermore as if being called forth, for they make firm the view of self. When a wise comprehend the differences between these two, why would they not at that point before revere you from the depths of their being? Let alone your numerous teachings, even in the meaning of a small part, those who find ascertainment in a cursory way, this brings supreme bliss in them as well. Alas, my mind was defeated by ignorance, though I have sought refuge for a long time. In such an embodiment of excellence, I possess not a fraction of its qualities. Nonetheless, before the stream of this life, flowing towards the death, has come to cease, that I found slight faith in you, even this I think is fortunate. Among teachers, the teacher of dependent origination, amongst wisdom, the knowledge of dependent originations, you who are most excellent like the kings of the world, know this perfectly well, not others. All that you have taught proceeds by way of dependent origination. That too is done for the sake of nirvana. You have no deeds that do not bring peace. How amazing your teaching is such. In whomsoever's ears it falls, they all attain peace. So who would not be honored to uphold your teaching? It overcomes all opposing challenges. It is free from contradiction between the earlier and the latter paths. It grants fulfillments of being's two aims. For this reason, my joy increases evermore. For its sake, you have given away again and again over countless eons, sometimes your body, and others your life, as well as your loving kin and resources of wealth. Seeing the quality of this teaching pulls hard at your heart, just like what a hook does to a fish. Sad it is not to have heard it from you. The intensity of that sorrow does not let go of my mind, just like the mind of a mother constantly goes after her dear child. Here too, as I reflect on your words, I think, blazing with the glory of noble marks, and hallowed in a net of light rays, this teacher, in a voice of pristine melody, spoke thus in such a way. Instant such a reflection of the sage's form appears in my mind, it soothes me, just as the moonbeam heals fever's pain. This excellent system, most marvelous, some individuals who are not so learned have entangled it in utter confusion, just like the tangled balbaza grass. Seeing this situation, I strove with a multitude of efforts to follow after the learned ones, and sought the intention again and again. At such time as I studied the numerous works of both our own middle way and other schools, my mind became tormented evermore, constantly by a network of doubts. The night lily grove of Nagarjuna's treatises, Nagarjuna, whom you prophesied, would unravel the unexcelled vehicle as it is, shining the extremes of existence and non-existence, illuminated by the garden of white lights of Chandra's well-uttered insights, Chandra, whose stainless wisdom orb is full, who glides freely across scripture's space, who dispels the darkness, extremes, hearts, and outshines the constellations of the false speakers. When through my teacher's kindness I saw this, my mind find rest at last. Of all your deeds, your speech is supreme. Within that too, it is this very speech. So the wise, you remember the Buddha through this teaching of dependent origination. Following such a teacher and having become a renunciate, having studied the conqueror's words not too poorly, this monk who strives in the yogic practices, such is the depth of his reverence to the great seer. Since it is due to my teacher's kindness, I've met with the teaching of the unexcelled teacher. I dedicate this virtue too towards the cause, for all beings to be sustained by ultimate sublime spiritual mentors. May the teaching of this beneficial one till world's end be unshaken by the winds of evil thoughts. May it always be met by innumerable beings who find conviction in the teacher by understanding their teaching's true nature. May I never falter even for an instant to uphold the excellent will of the sage, which illuminates the principle of dependent origination through all my births, even giving away my body and life. May I spend day and night carefully reflecting by what means can I enhance this teaching achieved by the Supreme Savior through strenuous efforts over countless eons. As I strive in this with pure intention, may Brahma, Indra, and the world's guardians and protectors such as Mahakala unswervingly always assist me. Okay, the background information, it is given there in the form of note. You can read it later. Yeah, okay. So now let's quickly wind up what we did of emptiness last time. Yes. Okay, good. So this will, and I think there are two things. One is Professor William, right? Professor William is going to remind us something. Okay, and there are two things actually. And who is that? The other group? Which one? Okay. Which mantra? Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so all these three will be done after the completing of the four essentials. Right? Now the four essentials, we're almost done. We're done with the first. First, that is, hey, the four essentials on our fingertips, one by one. Ready? No books. Ready? Okay, yes, the number one, Carolina. I give you full, you give me full, right? Don't say object negation. Identify essential of identifying object negation. Okay, Drishti number two. Okay, it's fine. Perfect. Essential understanding the emptiness of the objects being intrinsically one with its parts. Okay, Ben, what is number three? You celebrated your birthday yesterday. Number three. Essential three. Perfect. Wonderful. Okay. Number four. Jenna. The essential of understanding. Privation.
That if something is empty of being one with its parts, and something is empty of being empty,
Different from its parts.
Involves the understanding the emptiness of objective existence.
Perfect. Very good. Okay, next, ready? Ready? Michael, ready? With the 4 points. Okay, so we need to have these on the fingertips. By the way, tell me, how many you are really fed up with the suffering of samsara, suffering in your life, right? And how many want to get rid of that? It's too much headache. I don't want it. And how many serious with that? How many seriously want to get rid of that? If you're serious, no choice. You have to remember this 4. If you're serious, if you don't remember, which means you're not serious, right? We are very serious to get the breakfast. We are very serious to get the lunch, right? We make sure that somehow we get something, right? And which means that we are very serious. So therefore, we need to have these 4 on our fingertips. If we don't have these on our fingertips, means that we are not too serious. Okay. Third one. Okay, what's the first one? Essential of identifying the object of negation. Number 2, essential of understanding the emptiness of the objects being intrinsically one with its parts. Number 3, essential for understanding the emptiness of the objects being intrinsically different from its parts. Carolina? Shall we say it again? Huh? Yes. Sunamla? Say it again. Number 3. Different. Perfect. Very good. Thank you. Okay. Number 4. Anyone? Number 4. Nicola. Anything which is empty of intrinsic. Not or and. Very good. Okay, just see that we have these 4 on our fingertips. They're not difficult. You're getting it. So for some people it's very easy. Perhaps like your training in like neuroscience or biotechnology, biotech and so forth. It may be for some people like philosophy, it may be a little easier. For some people, you may find a little difficult, but it's not really difficult. Just try to do it, and then your mind, that becomes your discipline. You're getting it? That becomes your discipline. Discipline meaning that this is something that becomes your area of learning. Then it becomes easy for you. So we need to put a little effort. That'd be good. Okay. They identify the object negation done. Now what we see is that they say how we see things, self-grasping ignorance is at the root of all the miseries. Self-grasping ignorance is at the root of all the miseries. And so look, this is very helpful for us. I think day 1 or day 2 I cited Nagarjuna's verse. Ceasing of karmas and afflictions is nirvana. Did I cite it? Yes. Ceasing of karmas. By the way, it should be here in this book. Anybody who can identify that? So the same verse is cited 3 or 4 times in this book. Can you identify that? Where it is? Ceasing of karmas and afflictions is nirvana. Karmas and afflictions arise from inappropriate tension. 216. Huh? 216, 116. That let's say 116. Okay, 116. Okay, 116. This is the main source. 116 is the main source. 216 is where we just cited that. 216. We cited that several times. Is it 216? Huh? 216. Yes, 216. 216, and it should be even cited in somewhere else also, under the Wheel of Life. Yes, Wheel of Life 330. 330, 216, and then the main source is 116. Okay. Okay. Let's the better would be, let's go to 116. There is the main source, and then later on 216, 336. You go there. 116, verse number 5. Page number 116, verse number 5. It says, ceasing of karmas and afflictions leads to, this is not a good translation. Modify this, change it. Ceasing of karmas and afflictions is nirvana. Is nirvana. Some of you, I know you have already changed it. And those of us who are seeing this for the first time, change it. Ceasing of karmas and afflictions is nirvana, rather than leads to nirvana. Is nirvana. Karmas and afflictions arise from conceptual thought. Conceptual thought, and what we suggest is the in bracket you write conceptual thought of inappropriate attention. Yes. Say it again. Which one? Instead of leads to, change it to is. Karma. Oh, this is a good question. So karma here, karma should be thought of in two ways. The karma in real sense, in true sense, and the imprint of the karma. Meaning, for example, say when we study these, wisdom emptiness is very important. The moment you say the wisdom, you feel that wisdom emptiness is very important, already you are accumulating a very strong positive karma. You're getting it? The moment you say that, you feel, even just to verbally say that, wisdom emptiness. So what we are learning here, from this we see that wisdom emptiness is very important. Even what you say, and then mentally it comes to you, and if the feeling is very strong that without wisdom emptiness there's no way I can get out of samsara. When you feel that, that very gesture is the accumulation. This is the accumulation, enormous karma, positive karma. You're getting it, enormous positive karma. So that is the active positive karma. Then what happens is that the at the moment is like 10. Then gradually it becomes 11, right? 11, what happens? Tea break, right? And then I do not stop, and then you remember the tea, right? Okay, how will she stops? She stops. So there is positive and negative karma, I don't know. But for sure it's not positive karma. Either negative karma or neutral karma, right? Neutral karma. So what happened to your earlier positive karma? Positive karma is not damaged. Positive karma, active state of positive karma, wow, wisdom emptiness is so precious, right? When you feel like that, you at that very the mental intention that the wisdom emptiness is so precious. This is a very strong positive karma, active positive karma. Then when you say that, okay, now it's time for tea, he's not stopping it, I wish he stops the class now, right? Or also I have some laundry to do, right? So when you think like this, what happened to the previous enormous positive karma? That positive karma is not damaged. It is not there, but it is in a dormant state. It is in the form of imprint. As you said, it is in the form of imprint. So in a loose sense, it is still karma, but in technical sense, it's not karma, but it serves as a karma. Karma meaning, then when the result is the given right, it gives the result, same as the result of the karma, active karma which you accumulated, because this is a flow of that. For example, it is the analogy given is like, say, let's say that from here I go to Delhi and I have to carry some money, let's say 1 lakh rupees I have to carry to Delhi, and then I don't want to carry the money, right? Instead, I request Venerable Samola and Venerable Tenzila, can you please keep this 1 lakh rupees, and somehow you have your friend there to give me 1 lakh rupees. Oh yeah, of course we can do that, right? So we always, there's a transaction of money happening between Delhi and Thosamling, so that's not issue. So I'll give you a piece of paper, a voucher, a piece of paper to vouch that we got this amount of money. So when he comes there, please, upon showing this paper, you give him money. So this piece of paper is not 1 lakh rupees, but that suffices. It does the work of 1 lakh rupees. You getting it? Because when you give it, you get 1 lakh rupees from the office there in Delhi. So it serves as 1 lakh rupee, but it's not 1 lakh rupee. Likewise, the imprint left by the karma is not karma, but it serves as the purpose of the karma. In other words, it is the potential left by the karma itself. So when it ripens the result. The result is served with the result of the karma and the imprint of the karma. Good. Okay. Ceasing karmas and afflictions is nirvana. And karmas and afflictions arise from conceptual thought. Then in bracket you can add the of inappropriate attention. So why in bracket is that what is in bracket is not the original words of the author. These are the implicit meanings of the author, but not explicitly said by the author in bracket, not to confuse. Then these arise from, okay, see, elaboration before that, mental elaboration. Mental, that is put in bracket, which means this is not the original words of the author. Elaboration of grasping a true existence. In bracket, again, this is not the original word of the Aranyagārjuna, but elaboration means the elaboration of grasping true existence. And the elaboration ceases by or into emptiness. So from this, what we see is that from reading this, we know the 5 points. What are the 5 points? Anyone? Raise hands, quick. 5 points. Anyone? Okay, Sonamla. Yes, Sona Umale. Yes. Yes. Okay, you look at the text. Look at the text and tell me. What are they? First one is samsara. Yes, samsara created by or caused by contaminated karmas, which in turn are caused by afflictions, which in turn are caused by conceptualization of inappropriate attention, which in turn is caused by self-grasping ignorance. Elaboration of self-grasping, 5 points. So from this we very clearly see that the root of all the miseries is self-grasping ignorance. This is a very standard text. You're getting it? This is like the preamble. This is like the constitution, the preamble of how we are trapped in samsara and how we can get out of samsara. Okay, we see that it's all related to self-grasping ignorance. So this is in the context of how we suffer, how we are trapped in samsara. You're getting it? Now what about the cognitive? This is the more related to afflictive obscurations. Afflictive obscurations. So what about cognitive obscurations? So thus far it's began from this self-grasping ignorance. Now the subtle stains of the self-grasping ignorance and the offshoots, they are like the solid garlic. Now remove solid garlic, the smell of the garlic is left. That is the cognitive obscurations. So the smell coming from where? From the solid garlic. You getting it? So somehow all the mental developments, be it very gross to the subtle, they are all connected with this self-grasping ignorance. And yet the self-grasping ignorance can manifest in the form of very gross afflictions like attachment, anger, jealousy, craving, and so forth, only when the self-grasping ignorance is complemented by self-centered attitude. You're getting it? Self-grasping ignorance. Okay, just for information, these are very important pieces of information. See, our mind, even the afflictive minds, afflictions, anger, attachment, jealousy, craving, belligerence, spite, or ignorance, and so forth, all these afflictions may not be non-virtuous. Okay, maybe some of you may be hearing this for some, what it says, affliction should be non-virtuous. No. Say, mental state can be divided into virtuous, non-virtuous, and neutral. You getting it? And afflictive minds or afflictions cannot be virtuous, can never be virtuous. Afflictions can never be virtuous, but it can be either non-virtuous or neutral. Afflictions. Oh, how many are a little confused? What? Unpleasantly confused. Right? We suppose pleasant surprise, right? Okay, unpleasantly confused. Oh, what is this? Affliction and not non-virtuous. Presents? Okay. So this is very much, this is where we need to study these concepts systematically. You getting it? This is very important. Okay, so the brochures are there. Carolina, the brochures are there. You getting it? Say if you are really, wow, that's amazing. I just took for granted that what is afflictive should be non-virtuous. Now he's saying that afflictive may not be non-virtuous. Okay, Jacob, what you want to answer, or you have more questions?
No, just a question, please.
Yes.
So could you say desire is an affliction?
Yes, of course. Desire is one of the best examples of affliction.
But what about if we've got the desire to liberate ourselves, to feel sentient beings?
Desire for Buddhahood. Desire to benefit others. Okay, there are two things. Desire, attachment. These words, right? How we understand? It depends. It depends. You're getting it? Okay. Yoga side. When talk about the desire, there are two things. Desire in a very destructive form and the aspiration. Aspiration, desire. When I say aspiration, people understand it as, actually it's a form of desire. But aspiration means something positive. Desire means something negative. This is how we ordinary people understand it. You're getting it? To be very straightforward, desire is of two kinds: constructive desire and destructive desire. Desire to help others. This is a very constructive desire. We call it aspiration. Not to confuse with the destructive desire. So desire for money, wealth, whatever. It doesn't mean that, okay, working for money, working for livelihood. Of course, this is desire for money. This is not what is known as desire. Means, say, the desire just to think of money, and you are ready to do anything, corruption or anything for the money. These are all destructive desires, right? So desire there too. Good. Now the question is about, okay, those, raise your hands, those who are undesirably confused or unpleasantly confused. What were you confused?
Well, I was confused if you said the word, because in one sentence you said afflictions are always non-virtuous, and then you said afflictions.
Who said it? Afflictions are always non-virtuous. Who said it? I said it. Don't leave this hall till you are able to fix it. You're getting it? Otherwise you'll quote me. Right? Later on, Carolina will meet with some geshes, learned geshes, scholars, and you say, oh, I attended a retreat, right? I really enjoyed it. It's amazing, right? And what did you learn, right? I learned a lot. Just tell me one, that all afflictions are non-virtuous. Who taught you? Geshe Dorji Damdul taught me, right? I did not teach you this. Till you fix this, don't leave this hall.
Okay, so maybe I'll rephrase. I wasn't sure if you said afflicted or afflictions were always are
Okay. So these are where we need to study systematically. You're getting it? If you don't study systematically, these are the nuances. I'm deliberately bringing this here because you in your mind, you have kept this like 1 week, total like 9 days for this retreat. To get a whole 9 day is very difficult, and still you made it. So I won't be doing justice if I don't try to give as much as I can. So therefore I'm sharing these things which otherwise usually are not touched. They are touched only when you study things systematically. You're getting it? Okay, now you may be wondering. Say the afflictions can be what? What did I say? Or afflictions can be? Okay, don't leave this hall till you fix it, Jill. Right? Okay, anyone else? What did I say? Puja. Wow. Very precise. Rashmi? No, don't say same. Perfect. This is what I said. You're getting it? I never said that affliction can be virtuous, non-virtuous. No, I never said it. A mind can be virtuous, non-virtuous and neutral, and I categorically said that afflictions can never be virtuous. It should be either non-virtuous or neutral, and two of them got hold of it very precisely. Thank you. Okay, let me repeat it. Afflictions can be non-virtuous or neutral. It can never be virtuous, number one, and afflictions may not be non-virtuous also. It can be neutral. You getting it? Afflictions can be neutral. Any questions? Artha? Arka, right?
Ishala, I always had a doubt, about certain set of Buddhist scholars. They say Buddha actually taught remedies for 84,000 or 80,000 afflictions.
Mm-hmm.
So, are those, like, how do you categorize
What are 84,000s?
84,000?
We don't have 84,000 days. Right? Okay, I'm joking. Okay, yes, what Arka said is true. That first let me. This is another important point. Thank you, Arka. Bring this up. Sometimes it is said that the Buddha's teachings can be classified into 80,000. In some sources it says 84,000. So why the variation? This question. So we need to know the anecdotes also, the stories behind these. Before say the Buddha started giving teachings. At one point, Buddha completed 4,000 say the teachings done. At that point, the Buddha's students or the disciples, they feel the need for the teacher to have an attendant. And they were having their own internal conversation, and they decided on Ananda, the Buddha's cousin, the best candidate for the Buddha's and the attendant. Then they approached Ananda. Ananda, would you be happy to be the attendant of the Buddha? If you are the one, what would you say? Hey, if you are approached, what would you say? Yes, yes, yes. Ananda did not say yes. Right? Ananda said that yes, under one condition. He laid a condition. And all the others, they asked, on what condition? And Ananda said, on the condition that the Buddha will teach only in my presence. And so they took this matter to the Buddha and said that, sir, you need to have an attendant. We all discussed about this, and we also approached Ananda, and Ananda would be happy to do so, provided that the Buddha teach only in his presence. Then the Buddha accepted. Buddha said, yes, I'll teach only in his absence. So the point is that since then, how many teachings were taught? The 80,000 teachings were taught after Ananda becoming the attendant. 4,000 were taught before Ananda became the Buddha's attendant, right? So if you say 84,000, it's a complete teaching of the Buddha, and 80,000 is the Buddha, since the Buddha is taking over as the attendant of the Buddha. This is the story. And then they say, and then in some sources, I'm not too sure about the sources in terms of root sources, like the Buddha's own teachings in Pali or in Sanskrit. I'm not too sure, but we do find some commentaries which say that these 84,000 teachings are taught as remedy to 84,000 afflictions. You getting it? And what is the 84,000 afflictions? It is said like 84,000, the 200, and the 20,000, right? 21,000 versions of attachment, 21,000 versions of anger, 21,000 versions of ignorance. How many now? 63,000. Now how many left? 21,000 left. So that is for the overall together. Okay, so this is what is said. But then some scholars, they were even particular trying to identify what they are. But my standpoint is very different. I won't deny this. I won't say that these are wrong. But I will say that the Buddha, when the Buddha gives teachings, say how the Buddha gives teachings. Somebody just, it is not like organized, there were organized teachings that they happened with the Buddha, but then as the Buddha just passes by the field or passes by the village for alms round, then some ordinary people, they see the Buddha, they ask questions. Buddha on the spot gives some teachings, or this is to counter this affliction. No, right? It's very random teachings given. So this is my take from the point of view of the very mundane, common, ordinary perception, right? And then from a very more, say, the supramundane level, it could be like very specific afflictions, but I'm very neutral with that. Okay, good. So, what? Now we have to rush through. Okay, so what we learned is that say neutral and affliction which is neutral and non-virtuous. So you may be wondering, what examples do we have for the afflictions to be neutral? Afflictions non-virtuous, you will agree. Attachment, okay, you'll agree. Now afflictions which are neutral, what examples do we have? Right? Say the afflictions, what they do is that let me put it like this. Afflictions, their job is to disturb us. In the first place, you may wonder, how do we define affliction? Affliction is a mental factor, the presence of which disturbs our mind. Let me repeat it. Affliction is a mental factor. Affliction is a mental factor, the presence of which disturbs our mind. Attachment, anger, jealousy, ignorance, all these, they disturb our mind. Okay, next is that the afflictions, in terms of results, afflictions give. Results, they give suffering. Afflictions give the results from suffering. How many kinds of suffering? 3 kinds of suffering are there. What are they? Yes, Dwala? Yes. Wonderful. Suffering, change, and pervasive conditioned suffering, all pervasive conditioned suffering, whatever is same. Suffering, change, pervasive conditioned suffering, three kinds. Right? Yes, we'll explain one by one, don't worry. Okay, first, what is the first one? Suffering. Okay, anybody who will actually explain what is suffering? Quick. I need somebody. Puja, yes.
Trying. It is like a physical suffering where you know, like where the suffering cannot be denied, like when you're wounded or
Good. Can somebody give like a meaning of suffering? Meaning. Okay, so this cannot be guessed. You're getting it? Jaco, you're guessing or you know that? Good. Okay. It's not fully guessed. You heard something. Good. Say it.
Is it not sickness, old age, and death? Because it's very large.
Okay. What I'm saying is there are two things. Suffering. Illustration of suffering versus meaning of suffering. You're getting it? So Puja gave the illustration of suffering, and I requested her if you can give the meaning. And you are supposed to give the meaning, you give illustration. Okay, anyone else? Okay. Yangila, you like to give? Huh? Any is not a specific. Any unpleasant experiences which we want to get rid of. Any unpleasant experiences which we want to get rid of. You're getting it? Including aging and death, including the physical pains. In simple terms, it is any suffering which anybody can easily identify them as suffering. A suffering which anybody can identify them as suffering. That is suffering. What is number two? Suffering change. Anyone who likes to share with us what is suffering change? Quick. Okay, the Kamalji.
the aversion to change, the suffering that comes from wanting things to be the same, and the aversion to change.
Aversion to change the suffering. Okay, Elena, you agree? Not agree? Okay, Elena, you give your own view. It doesn't matter. You give me your own. You share with us your own view. What is suffering change, Elena?
Suffering of change is the mundane suffering.
Mundane suffering,
Like
headache.
like when we desire something, you get it, and again we are not happy or satisfied out of it, and we
Mundane suffering or mundane happiness?
happiness which becomes suffering.
Mundane happiness which becomes suffering. Mundane
suffering because we are really never satisfied.
Okay, mundane happiness which becomes suffering. If it doesn't become suffering, it's fine. It will. Are you sure? Okay. Anyone else? Okay, here, this girl. Drishti.
Suffering of change is the suffering which we believe is happiness, but in actuality is suffering.
Okay. An experience which we believe as happiness, in actuality is suffering. Like?
For example, standing in a sun, very hot sun, then like in winters we feel very good, like standing in the sun for once, but if we stay there for 2 hours, 3 hours, then it becomes a suffering for us.
Okay. Say somebody feeling so cold and then standing in the sun is a very pleasant feeling. The pleasant feeling that you get by being in the sun is suffering change. Because if you continue to be exposed in the sun, then you start to feel the hot. Then you feel miserable. So there's suffering change. Is what I'm saying? Can I ask you another question? Are you sure? Ready? Okay. If you stay just for like half an hour, don't stay for 2 hours. What's the problem?
It's still suffering.
How?
We believe that the happiness which we experience when we stand in the sun for the first time, it is not the same after half an hour.
No, don't stay after half an hour. After half an hour, it'll change, right? It becomes unbearable. Stay when you're enjoying, and then come.
It changes every moment. It is like
It changes from happy to happy, happy to happy. What's the problem? Happy to suffering change is terrible. If it changes from happiness to happiness to happiness, it's good.
no, it changes from happy, like we believe it is happiness, but it is suffering because it moment by moment, happiness reduces because of the time.
What's the problem? It still is happiness, right? First time it is 100% happiness, second time is 90% happiness, still is happiness. So what's the problem? It's not permanent happiness, but it's happiness. Okay, this girl gave a good answer, right? Okay, I'm just checking to what extent she can go. Good, I really appreciate it. Anyone else? Raise hands. Raise hands. Okay, Mikhail.
I think the suffering from the changing in life, like people moving, the house not looking the same, try to touch something and it's change. We hope it will be the same.
Okay, so earlier the house was very bad, then you make it new, the house changed, there's suffering? It becomes better.
And it's not always we can balance, just change, life changing and
Changing from bad to good.
some from just different.
Some are bad to good to bad, right? But some are from good to bad to good.
Yes, but some like, I don't know, my sister just moved from the house and we hope it will be the same situation, but different changing.
Yes, sometimes the changes happen from good to bad, sometimes same, sometimes bad to good,
Yes.
right? So bad to good is good. It's not suffering of change.
Sometimes when we experience it's not good.
Why not?
Happy from changing.
No, sometimes you're looking for change, right? Because the American elections, change, right? Okay, anyone else? Suffering of change, what do you mean by suffering change? Anyone? Okay, there you go. Okay, Laura.
Even happiness that we experience, even like a momentary happiness, it's not changing, it's even less, can last for a while, is like a bait which traps us in samsara because we believe that whatever is causing us happiness is real.
Okay, the Laurel is saying, what? Lord, put everything together.
Sorry?
Say, how is that suffering? I say, what do you mean by suffering change?
Suffering and change is all mundane happiness
All mundane happiness, suffering change. How?
because it's bait which traps us in samsara.
Number one, it is suffering because it's a bait. It appears as pleasant, but in actuality it is a bait. How is it a bait?
Because it appears to be so real, it appears to be the source of our happiness, appears to be outside of ourselves. And
But it's not happiness.
It is, but it's not.
It's not happiness. If you don't believe it to be happiness, then eat a cheesecake, then you will know. Right? After being very hungry for a long time, eat the first bite of the cheesecake, then you will see it's real or not.
It's called a bait.
How is it a bait?
We'll continue to try to get our happiness from that cheesecake.
What's the problem?
The cheesecake will reinforce our notion that external has some sort of reality.
Of course, it has some reality. Yes, you eat as what Iran said. You eat a cheesecake, it's delicious. You eat a rotten cheesecake, it's not delicious. There's some reality there. How is it a bait? This is the point. Okay, Venerable Tenzin La. Venerable Tenzin here. How is it abated? Thus far, the Lord has answered so good. The bait. How is it abated? Yes.
Because it prevents us from trying to get out of samsara
How?
by grasping to that mundane happiness.
Okay, say that. How many in your bed, right? In a bed, very cold weather, in the bed, cozy bed, right? And the alarm clock rings, there, and you were so enthusiastic last night. Oh, tomorrow I'll get up at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, right? You set the alarm, and the next day, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, it rang, and then what? You put it off. Either you reset it, another 5 minutes, right? You reset it. Why? You feel attached to the cozy bed. We feel attached to the cozy bed. And then meanwhile, otherwise, you get up, you do your prayers, you do your meditation, you do your studies, you miss 5 minutes of that opportunity. Why you miss that 5 minutes of that opportunity? Because of the pleasant cozy bed attached to it. You getting it? So this attachment actually steals your virtues, steals your, trap you in samsara. What is meant by trapping in samsara? Means that trapping you from engaging virtue to be liberated. It stops you from being liberated. It stops you from the experience of total liberation. What do you want? Immediate happiness or long-term happiness? We want long-term happiness, but we get stuck with the immediate happiness because of the attachment to this immediate happiness. So these immediate happiness, they stop us from the long-term happiness. You getting it? So therefore, these are known as the bait. You getting it? So suffering change. What is suffering change? As Laura has said, all mundane happiness. And how they are suffering change? How they are suffering? Because they are like bait. Bait is a very beautiful word. Not a word, a concept. It's a very beautiful concept. Okay, Ben, translate. Suffering change. The first, let's say they are suffering change. All mundane happiness is suffering change. Number two, how they are suffering? How they are suffering? They are like baits. How they are like baits? Baits should have two qualities. Number one, it should be delicious. Number two, it traps you. This is the meaning of bait. Okay, good. So this is suffering of change. What is next? Pervasive conditioned suffering. You getting it? So why we are talking about three sufferings? Very good. Wow. Okay. Why are we studying the three kinds of suffering? Is because of to know the afflictions. That afflictions can be non-virtuous or can be neutral. You're getting it? Okay. So first, before we jump into this, we will first settle on the number 3, which the Kamalji wants to know. What is, okay, is there anybody who likes to explain what is pervasive conditioned suffering? Yes, Venerable Karuna? Well, the contaminated aggregates. So, okay, contaminated aggregates are this suffering, pervasive conditioned suffering. Very good. Anyone else? Contaminated aggregates, meaning our body, speech, mind, these are the aggregates, and they're all contaminated. This is the one example of suffering, pervasive condition suffering. Anyone else? Okay, Pemba Srinla.
Because it's can experience in the older realms.
Okay, suffering which experience pervasive. Pervasive meaning which pervades in all samsara. All samsara is made of three divisions. Suffering which pervades in all three realms in samsara. That is suffering of pervasive conditioned suffering. Number 2. Any other examples? Yes, Jacob?
Suffering from our karma since beginningless time.
Okay, say that we are under the influence of contaminated karmas and afflictions. We are under this influence, or we are the servant. We are the slave of the contaminated karmas and afflictions. We are being swayed by the, for example, say if you are a piece of cotton, and the wind blows and the wind throws you wherever the wind likes. You have no choice. So we are thrown here and there by the contaminated karmas and afflictions. That we being under the sway of contaminated karmas and afflictions is a pervasive condition suffering. Very good. Good. Anyone else? Yangila?
This is also the cause for other two types of suffering.
And this is also the basis. So pervasive condition suffering is the basic ground for giving rise to the other two sufferings. Very good. Anything else? Anything else? Okay, Jacob, you will add more?
Yeah, sorry, can I just go back to the suffering of change?
Okay, let's first work on number 3. I need to finish this. Anyone else? Okay, Pema Srinla.
Another point is like where in all the two realms, like desire and force and formless realm, they have not eradicated the self-grasping ignorance.
Okay, being under the sway of the self-grasping ignorance, which is reality in all the two realms. Being under the sway of the self-grasping ignorance, or being under the sway of the contaminated karmas and afflictions. Afflictions within that, self-grasping is included. Very good. And involuntary birth in samsara. Involuntary birth in samsara is again what happens in all the two realms. Involuntary birth in samsara. Now we have several illustrations. Okay. You may be wondering why these are referred to as the pervasive conditioned suffering. For the second one, which is the suffering change, what we know is that examples which the Lord gave is the all mundane happiness. All mundane happiness, they are suffering change. How? Two things. How are they suffering? Number 1. Then why they are known as suffering change? 2. Now for the pervasive condition suffering, how are they suffering? Number 1. First we have to know how they are suffering. Involuntary burden samsara, or being under sway of contaminated karmas afflictions. Say the ground for the suffering and suffering change. And what else? What else? Pervasive condition. Oh, that the suffering which experience all three realms. Why? In what way they are all, number 1, suffering. Then number 2, that why they are referred to as a pervasive condition suffering. Two things to learn. Okay. The first, for the second one, suffering change, why the mundane happiness are known as suffering. Why are they suffering? Because they are bait. If you understand that is a bait, it answers that is suffering. How many of you like bait? Raise hands. How many of you like to be bait? How many of you like to be somebody else using bait to catch you? How many like that bait? Raise hands. Nobody likes the bait. Even the animals, when they come to see that this is bait, they will run away. You getting it? Bait is but the bait, by the very definition, bait should be delicious. Yes. If the bait is not delicious, nobody will come. So therefore, this is what makes you feel attached to. You're getting it? And more delicious, more we're attached, more glued. Right? And come out, that is very difficult. Okay. Bait because it is suffering, and then they change. That's easy. What is seen as evident happiness, it, as this girl said, that the more you experience, the intensity of the happiness disappears. Right? Okay. Just yesterday, somebody sent me the video clip. What's a video clip? It says that okay, no offense to anybody, right? It's just what I've seen, I'm just conveying this, right? I don't mean to explicitly point to anybody. So the boy and girl, they were, for some office work, waiting outside on a stool. And it says, they say the initial time of the marriage, right? Marriage. And the girl felt a little sleepy. And girl started to lean against the husband. And the husband was allowing her to rest on him, right? So gently, right? Petting her like this. Then after 10 years. Then the next part, it says after 10 years, right? And again, the girl was dozing off, in the same place, dozing off. And the girl again, he was pushing, right? Sit right. Right. Okay. So when did it happen? Overnight? No. Gradually it built up. Initially joy, happiness, and then as the time passes, this intensity decreases. Right? Changes. This suffering change, right? Okay, this is question, right? So, say mundane happiness. Mundane happiness, there's an element of selfishness involved. When the selfishness is gone, it can become so beautiful. You're getting it? It can become so. For example, the mother and the children, mother and the child, their relationship, right, is so beautiful. Because that, generally speaking, the selfishness is much less in comparison with boyfriend girlfriend, right? Generally, so the mother's relationship with the child is generally selfish, much less. Mother is ready to sacrifice all alone, not just the first day, right? First day of the birth, all alone. The mother is ready to sacrifice. Mother is already 80 years, child is already 60 years, the child is already old person, still dies with mother is the child. You know, there's so much love and affection, it's amazing. I've seen that with my own eyes. It's so touching, I've seen that. Okay. It can be very beautiful, but it's very rare in terms of the mundane happiness. Okay, let's not go too much into that side. Now the next is pervasive conditioned suffering. All the examples that we gave, why these are known as, number one, why they are suffering. Because in all these examples, we see that we are trapped in samsara. What is samsara? Means we are in prison. For example, like involuntary birth. Nobody wants to go, in a place involuntarily, right? You want to go voluntarily. In other words, involuntary means loss of freedom. Loss of freedom, suffering or happiness. Loss of freedom is suffering. If somebody would ask you, what exactly is suffering? Just say loss of freedom. This is the best way. And loss of freedom, it has many layers. Some are very coarse to a very subtle loss of freedom. You getting it? And who said it? Self-grasping ignorance. Who said it? Here, Bimbasinla. Self-grasping ignorance. The moment you have the self-grasping ignorance, that is loss of the freedom in the most subtle form. Self-grasping ignorance, loss of freedom, In the most subtle form is just having the presence of self-grasping ignorance. That is the loss of freedom in a very subtle form, which even we don't even identify them. Actual loss of freedom is happening. Right? Okay. Now, why they are known as pervasive? Samsara is divided into 3 groups. What are they, Bhamisla? Number 1, desire realm, form realm, and formless. Whole samsara is divided into 3 groups. Whole world is divided into 7 continents, right? How many continents? Hey. How many continents? 7 continents, right? Okay. So likewise, whole samsara is divided into 3 realms. Desire realm, form realm, and formless realm. Okay. Third level of suffering is what pervades in all 3 realms. So therefore it is known as pervasive conditioned suffering. And why it is known as conditioned? That we are conditioned, where to move, we are conditioned by the contempt karmas afflictions. Conditioned meaning that we don't have a choice. Okay, how many of you out of your choice came to planet Earth? Out of choice, you take birth in your parents, with your particular parents. By choice, you came? You are a great bodhisattva. That's special. Because you are in Bodhicitta Center, I know that. Right? Okay. Otherwise, we came without choice. So something, drove us in this direction. That is the karma. We are being driven by the karma. We are being tossed by the karma. We don't have the choice. So we're conditioned by the karma, contaminated karmas, and afflictions. Okay. So this is known as a pervasive conditioned suffering. Now the main point. What's the main point? The main point for us to discuss? How the afflictions can be virtuous, non-virtuous, and neutral. No. Oh, no. What is the correct version? Hey, what's the correct version? Jill? How the afflictions can be non-virtuous or neutral. Okay, now listen. Afflictions, their job is to give rise to suffering. And suffering, there are 3 kinds. Right? There are 3 kinds. And say the suffering change, and pervasive conditioned suffering. So these 3, we see that the first one, what is the first one? Suffering exists only in desire realm. Manifest suffering exists only in desire realm. In Tibetan, dukkam, sukham, sumekam. Desire realm, formless realm. Suffering, dungel, is only in the first realm, desire realm. Suffering change. Okay, suffering, it exists only in desire realm, therefore it is not pervasive. It's not pervasive. Suffering change, it exists in desire realm and the first 3 form realm. Form realm, there are 4. Form realm, second one, has 4 divisions. And suffering change exists in the desire realm and the first 3 form realms. Not in the 4th form realm and the formless realm. It does not exist there. So therefore suffering change is also not pervasive. Third one exists in all 3 realms. Pervasive conditioned suffering exists in all 3 realms. Okay, how many of you understood this much? Raise hands. Good. Now the next part. Given that these 3 sufferings differ in their nature, the causes must be also different. Causes must be different. If the results are different, causes must be different. So suffering is given rise to by the non-virtuous, the karmas and the afflictions. Suffering is given rise to by the non-virtuous karmas and the afflictions. Okay. And suffering change is the result of contaminated virtuous karma. suffering change is the result of contaminated virtuous karma. And the pervasive conditioned suffering is the result of the activity of the karmas, the contaminated karmas and the afflictions. Just the activity, which means that activity in terms of you losing freedom. That's it. It's not like without a very specific cause, specific like virtuous, non-virtuous. No, it's just that you lose your freedom. You lose your freedom, right? Okay, so that is the pervasive conditioned suffering. Now tell me, say, suffering is created by non-virtuous. You getting it? Non-virtuous mind. Okay, suffering change is created by contaminated virtuous karma. You getting it? Contaminated virtuous karma. And suffering change exists where? In desire realm and in the form realm. In the first three form realms, right? Okay, suffering change in the first three form realms. Let's say suffering change in the first three form realms. Are they the results of... Okay, in the form realm, there is no suffering. Agree? Not agree? Agree. And because suffering is not there, non-virtues are not there. Because suffering is a result of non-virtues. Suffering is a result of non-virtues. In the form realm, there is no suffering. There's no non-virtues. There's affliction. There's affliction, there's no non-virtue. Huh? No. So the result is not there. Suffering is not there. So what is the cause of suffering? Non-virtuous karmas and the afflictions. Non-virtuous afflictions. They are not there. You're getting it? But afflictions are there. Right? So these afflictions are not non-virtuous. They are neutral. Okay. So first, can you repeat what I said? Okay. Try. Don't say no, right? And non-listening. Okay. Okay. First, you repeat like this. Say, in the form realm, there's no suffering. Repeat it. Good. And suffering is a result of non-virtues. Repeat it. In the realm where there's no suffering, there's no cause of suffering. Repeat it. In the realm where there's no suffering, there should be no cause of the suffering. Therefore, in the realm where there's no suffering, there should be no non-virtuous karmas and afflictions. Okay, so intellectually, I'm not asking you experientially. Intellectually, it does make sense. This reason. If it makes sense, note it down. And then reflect on later on. You getting it? Okay. Then we go further. In the formless realm, how many sufferings are there? In formless realm? Only pervasive conditioned sufferings there in the formless realm, which means there, we don't really have, they don't really have, okay, look, they don't really have, again, non-virtues. You're getting it? They don't really have non-virtues, but they have attachment. They have attachment. They don't have anger. Anger is only in desire realm. Anger, aversion, only in desire realm, not in the form of formless. But in formless realm, attachment is there. Even in formless realm, attachment is there. So this attachment is not non-virtuous. Because in the formless realm, in the formless realm, there is no non-virtue. Okay, intellectually, how many of you got it? Not necessarily experientially. Intellectually, at least I can repeat what you said. Right? I don't answer what you said, but I can repeat what I said. Caroline, can you repeat what I said? You're going to repeat. You already repeated already. Okay, now next. In the desire realm, even in the desire realm, all afflictions may not be non-virtuous. Even in the desire realm. Right? Okay, this is very interesting. This is very interesting. Let's say that in the desire realm, I say that, okay, by the way, how many of you like cheesecakes? Raise hands. And how many of you cheesecake so-so? Raise hands. Cheesecake so-so. Timothy? So-so. And the Isabel? So-so. Or how many so-so? Cheesecake so-so? Okay. Professor William, Laura, anyone else? Okay. There are several of you who are so-so. Now let's say that so on Ben's birthday, somebody brought a cheesecake, brought a chocolate cake, right? Let's say, okay, chocolate cake. How many of you so-so? Raise hands. Okay, I like it. Raise hands. Good. Okay, but Arka is very enthusiastic, like this, right? You like it? Amazing. Okay. So let's say. Yes. Ben likes it? So. Okay. To appreciate yesterday's people. Okay. Let's say that Ben's birthday and the chocolate cake came. You getting it? Chocolate cake came. And the, okay, let's say this is chocolate cake. I ask those who like it and those who so-so. Both of them I ask. Okay, by the way, raise hands. Those who say so-so, raise hands. Chocolate cake, so-so. Okay, what's your name? Lungrila. And Sheribam, you so-so. Okay, so I ask you both who likes it and who doesn't like it. Okay, let's say this is cheesecake. What is this? Okay, not... Okay, this is chocolate. What is this? Chocolate cheesecake, right? Professor William. Okay, this is the cheesecake. No, this chocolate cake. I don't know. This is chocolate cake. Correct? Not correct? Hey, Nurila. Correct? Not correct? This is the chocolate cake. Let's say this is a chocolate cake, right? This chocolate cake, is it correct or not correct? This is correct. Sherry Pema. Correct. The reason those who like it. Those who like the chocolate cake. Okay, let's remember someone. This is chocolate cake, yes? Correct. So both said yes. Both said yes. This is purely affective. No, cognitive. Cognitive mind. Now I ask, is it good? You like it? Is it good chocolate? Is it good cake? Then the Lungrila, Sheripema and others will say so. And then the reasons, those who said yes, I like it. Reasons? Okay, Drishti, Arka, yes, Arka and Isabel, Jane will say, yes, it's very good cake. Which means affinity is that those who said so, affinity is not shown. You're getting it? Where in the second question, some people show affinity, some people don't show affinity. Where you show affinity, that is known as affective mind. You're getting it? Affective mind. So, the cognitive mind does not show any affinity. Affective mind shows the affinity. You're getting it? Self-grasping ignorance is purely cognitive. Self-grasping ignorance is purely cognitive. Self-grasping ignorance of the desire realm. Self-grasping ignorance of the desire realm is purely cognitive. What is purely cognitive can never be non-virtuous. it is afflictive. It is affliction. Self-grasping ignorance of all realms, desire realm, form realm, formless, they're all cognitive nature, they're all affliction. But self-grasping ignorance is always cognitive and never the non-virtuous. You're getting it? Okay. So from this what we're learning is that affliction may not be non-virtuous. For example, self-grasping ignorance, which is purely cognitive. Okay, Ben, you like to just summarize what we said? Like say self-grasping ignorance, cognitive. Okay, afflictions could be two, cognitive and affective. And cognitive can never be non-virtuous. So self-grasping ignorance, although it is in desire realm, it is affliction, but it's not non-virtuous. Good. Okay, thank you. Yes.
I'm curious if so the suffering or suffering would be a result of the cause.
Suffering and suffering would be a result of the cause of non-virtuous karma. So if you're in a different realm, like if you're saying in the form realm that you would no longer have the non-virtuous karma afflictions, but could you still have the cause, like for the next life?
Okay. This is a good question. Good question. Thank you. Okay. Did you all follow the question? The question is say that desire realm, form realm, and formless realm, three realms. Three realms. And from there, in the three realms, say we are in which realm? Desire realm. And then somebody say, how do you take birth in formless, formless? Formless is through a very special meditation. A special meditation where, technically speaking, we have to cut attachment to the desire realm to jump to form realm. To take birth in the formless realm, again you have to meditate in such a way to cut attachment to the form realm to take birth in the formless realm. So this is basic principle. Now the Carolina's question is that, say, somebody takes birth from the desire realm to the form realm. And is it that the person will always stay there or can later on take birth in the desire once more? If yes, to take birth in the desire realm, you should have the karma to take birth in the desire realm. So the karma of the desire realm should be triggered by, you say, karma to take birth in the desire realm, right? For example, like within desire realm, we see that human realm, God realm, these are the results of virtuous karma, suffering of change. And then whereas to take birth in animals, hungry ghosts, hell beings, yes, from the form and formless we can dive into animal realms, hungry ghost realm, hell realm, directly. So these are the results of non-virtues. So non-virtuous karma, do they exist in the form realm and formless realm? This is a question. This is a very good question, right? If you don't have these, how can you take birth in the lower realm later on? Right? If you have, what we said is that in the form and formless, there's no non-virtuous karma, non-virtuous afflictions, right? Okay, this is a serious question. Anybody who likes to give the answer? Okay, Jacob is always there as a beggar for me. Yes, Jacob. This is a good question.
Would I be right in thinking that we purified enough of our negative karma to reach the form and formless realms, and then due to there being no suffering, through our ignorance we develop more non-virtuous karma?
So, in the form and formless realm, you accumulate non-virtuous karma.
Yeah.
So, in the form and formless realm, the non-virtuous karma are there. So,
attachment, we can develop non-virtues.
say the attachment of the desirable is there. Non-virtuous attachment is there. No. Okay, anyone? Yes, Jane.
I think I recall that it has to do with the latencies, the seeds of karma that you have still carried to that realm.
Okay, thank you. So the point is that we talk about contaminant karmas and afflictions too, and they say afflictions are the active state which make you the accumulated karma. For example, let's say that I'm very angry and I bang this with the hammer. You getting it? And then there's a dent form. There's a dent form. So dent form is the result. And what made the dent to be formed is because of my anger in hitting, right? And later on I regret. But the dent will not come back, right? Result is there. But the driving force, which the causal factor, can be changed. Affliction can be changed, but the karma accumulated will remain in the form of a dormant state, latency in dormant state. So when you take birth there, you detach yourself, or your attachment to the desired realm is stopped, but the karmas that accumulate to take birth in the lower realm, they are still with the dense ordered form. These you will carry up there. Not in form of active state. Active state are non-virtuous. The inactive states, they are neutral, right? They are neutral, but they have the capacity to throw you down in the desire. Then, as Jacob said, that when your karma to be there in the form realm exhausts, then that karma to take on desire realm can be germinated towards the end, and then you take birth there, right? Okay, this is a good question. So now we have is 11 already, so still we are near to finish the 4 essentials. Okay, I think better what we do is that we will take another 15 minutes, complete the 4 essentials, right? And then you have another 45 minutes for your discussion, because in this next session I'd like to start bodhicitta, right? Okay, now to form the 4 essentials. For essentials, identify the object of negation is done. Next, having identified object of negation, that things are seen as so real. Okay, again, they quickly pick up something that is in front of you. Pick up something and look at it and see how it appears to you, as objectively real or like a dream that your mind is creating it. How does it appear to you? Objectively real. So this is deceptive. And you believe that it exists objectively. This is self-grasping ignorance, and that what traps us in samsara. How do you know that the object does not exist the way it appears to me? How do we know that? So seeing that object as objectively real there. If you said, oh, this is to be negated. This is to be negated. This is meaning of you having identified the object negation, object reality. What does it mean by objective reality? Object reality means object existing from its own side, independent of the mental imputation. An object existing from its own side, independent of the mental imputation. Okay, Ben? Okay, now what becomes very clear is that from the flower appears from the object. The flower appears to exist from its object, and that is deceptive. Flower does exist. How? It exists by mental imputation. On the contrary, it appears as from the object. That is to be negated. How do we negate it? This question. So for that, how do we negate it? If the object truly exists objectively, how do you evaluate it? If the flower does exist objectively, how do we evaluate it? By going closer to its object. How many agree with Drishti? Raise hands. Good. What is that mind known as which goes closer to its object? Ultimate analysis. You have to subject the flower to ultimate analysis. By subjecting flower to ultimate analysis, in a loose sense, we use the electron microscope to go close to its object. So going there, you see that the flower disappears. You getting it? You end up seeing two things. Atoms. Remove the atoms. Nothing is there. There are two possibilities. And say if the flower does exist objectively, these are only two possibilities. You agree? That either the atom should be the flower. If the flower does exist objectively, then objectively what we see is only the atoms. Or if you believe the flower still exists not as atoms, then remove the atoms to see if the flower exists differently. So these are the only two possibilities. You agree? Good. Subjecting the flower to ultimate analysis, when you go there to see, you see the atoms. Are the atoms the flower? No. Because flower is very beautiful. None of the atoms is beautiful. You agree? None of the atoms are beautiful. Yes? But flower is very beautiful to look at. Okay, so the atoms are not the flower. But what we said is that the parts, atoms are the parts of the flower. The parts of the flower is not intrinsically, flower is empty of being intrinsically one with the parts. Meaning, intrinsically means objectively. Objectively. From the object, the flower is not to be identified as the parts. The flower and parts, these are not from the object side. You're getting it? Empty of being intrinsically, meaning objectively one with its parts. You're getting it? Intrinsically meaning what? From the object. Objectively, one with the parts, meaning that the flower and the parts are not one. In other words, the parts are not, the atoms are not the flower. Okay. How many of you, they understood this much? Say, going through the electron microscope, you end up seeing the atoms. Now you are seeing whether the flower exists objectively or not. Objectively. So objectively, if at all there's something from the object, we see the atoms. And we see that the flower, from the object, intrinsically one. The flower is empty. Empty meaning not. Flower is not to be identified from the object as the parts or the atoms. Right? Okay. To make it simple, let's sit upright and do a quick meditation. Okay, Ben will translate. Very short sentences, don't mind. Okay, just visualize a flower. And you see how the flower appears as object real, or like your mind is projecting, like a movie being projected. Yes, of course the flower appears as so object real, nothing to do with the mind, independent of the mind. That this flower appears object real, that is identifying the object negation. That is deceptive. We are being deceived by seeing the flower as object real. This is deception. What we see as objective real flower, this, if you identify that, this is identifying the object of negation of emptiness of the flower. And how do we evaluate if the flower is empty of objective reality? That what we are seeing is the deception. How do we evaluate this? So, for this, remember what Arya Nagarjuna said. If the mirage is water, why not we see it as we go close to this object? In like manner, we go closer to the flower to see if the flower exists objectively. This mind which goes closer to the object is known as ultimate analysis. So this ultimate analysis is to examine if the flower exists objectively or not. If it sees the flower, it is seeing the objectively existing flower. If it sees there's no flower, it sees the flower does not exist objectively. So with this, when we analyze what the flower is, in the eyes of ultimate analysis, let's say by using electron microscope, we end up seeing the billions of atoms. Now on the object side, you have come too close to the object, and if there's a flower there from the object, the atom should be the flower. And in the eyes of ultimate analysis, which means objectively, we see that atoms are not the flower. Atoms are not one with the flower, which means atoms are not the flower. If you are very confident, yes, in the eyes of ultimate analysis, these atoms are not the flower. If you are very sure of this, stay in this experience for a while. This is the second essential, the essential understanding, the emptiness of the objects being intrinsically one with its parts. And if you still believe that the flower exists objectively, then you see the atoms are not the flower. Remove the atoms and see if there's a flower different there. Remove the flower, what do you see? Nothing is there as a flower. If you're very sure of this, this is understanding of the third essential understanding, the emptiness of the objects being intrinsically different from its parts. Now, if the flower does exist objectively, these are the only two possibilities. Either the atoms are to be intrinsically to be identified as a flower, or remove the atoms, they should be the flower as different from the atoms, and both of them are ruled out, which means that there should be no objectively existent flower. There should be no flower from the object side. If you understood this understanding of the fourth essential understanding the pervasion, that anything which is empty of being intrinsically one and intrinsically different from its parts entails the emptiness of objective existence of the object. Now ask yourself, where is the flower? I've come too close to the object with the help of the ultimate analysis. Where's the flower? It is nowhere to be seen. Stay in this experience. And the object that you're experiencing, it should be in the form of non-affirming negative. If the atoms come to your mind, you're not meditating emptiness. Atoms are the positive phenomena, and emptiness should necessarily be non-affirming negative. So the mere, on that level, the flower is not really there. When you feel that, there's a tinge of a fear can come to your mind. If the tinge of a fear comes to your mind, or a tickling sensation can happen to your mind, these are very precious. These are the indication that now your reflection, your meditation on emptiness, this is challenging your self-grasping ignorance. And then meditating on this more and more, gradually the fear will be replaced by extremely tranquil, serene peace of mind. If the tinge of fear does not come to you, don't worry. We study more, practice more, and gradually the physiological reactions will come, and you will see the benefit of that. Okay, slowly come out. Good. Okay, we'll stop here for tea break. Deyata gate gate paragate parasam gate bodhisvatyata om gate gate paragate parasam gate bodhisvatyata om gate gate paragate parasam gate bodhisvatyata. Okay, 3 prostrations.